All good. Okay. Thank you, Brenda. I couldn't help but think of the last time I heard that song, which was watching Jimmy Carter's funeral. It was a very Christian-y funeral, except for Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood singing that song. If you did not watch the funeral, I would recommend you do that. We lost a good man, a great man. Well, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville on this very cold morning. Glad that you're here. My name is Gene Van Zant. Been a member here 20 years and been involved in a lot of things. Right now, mainly I help with organizing our Sunday morning services, and we're always open to suggestions, constructive criticism, and improving what we do here. So Sunday mornings is our main time. We come together as a group. If this is your first time here, welcome. And some people are confused, like, what are these people? Because we're different. Some say we're the island of misfit toys, but this is where we belong, because this is a place of freedom. It is a place of respect for others. It is a place of compassion for each and every person, and above all, it's a place for love. So no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey or what your beliefs are about our ultimate destiny, we welcome you here. For those of us joining us online, welcome. We're glad to have you here as well. For those, if you are here the first time, you may have already done this, but if you'd like to fill out one of these white cards, you can put it in the offering basket later, basically to put you on our email list that goes out every Thursday with announcements of what's happening. Later in our service, we have a time of joys and concerns. You're invited to come drop a stone. If you have something you want to share, joys, concerns, and milestones, and needs, anything you would like to share, you can fill out one of these cards and bring it then. Those online can put that in the comments section at the appropriate time. If you need any help with hearing assistance, our AV tech, David, is happy to help you. Children are always welcome in our service. If you or they need a break, you can go into the foyer. We also have an attended nursery downstairs for kids and a playground, although it's a bit cold today for that. We do remind you to silence your cell phones, including me. Okay. We're very happy today to have the Reverend John Johnson speaking. He's one of our own, and he's spoken before. Do you know, John, I noticed last year when you were scheduled to speak, it got canceled because of... He was supposed to speak last week and also a year ago, and both times snow and ice. I don't know. Maybe because we scheduled you in early January. But... So the service that was to have happened last Sunday is happening today. Some of you, your order of worship may say January 12, or some of them say today's date, January 19th. Either way, we're glad to have you, and very glad to have John speaking to us today on a very interesting topic. Before we do our chalice lighting, tomorrow's a big day. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and something else is happening. But I want to focus on it being Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I wanted to read just a few short quotes of his, a man of powerful deeds, but also very powerful words that he meant and he stood behind. These are some of the quotes that appear on his memorial in Washington, D.C. We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. And finally, this one. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. All right, let's light our chalice now. And I'm going to invite you to say these words with me as we light the chalice. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together.
I beg your pardon if I sound a little stuffy this morning. I've taken so much cold medicine that every time I sneeze, I heal somebody. Mark Twain once wrote, "Man is a religious animal. He is the only religious animal. He is the only animal that has the only true religion. Several of them. He is the only animal that loves his neighbor as himself and cuts his throat if his theology isn't straight." Which sort of begs the question, why did Jesus, Moses, Buddha, and Muhammad cross the road?
Hey you guys, we're going to sing Come Come Whoever You Are. It is number 188. You can follow along in your hymn book or the words will be up. Let's just keep it simple and just sing it 3 times through today. Stand as you're willing and able.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jules Taylor, and I'm so happy to see you. And thank you, Jean, for asking me to read this really fun, interesting book. And it's going to ask the age-old question, the burning question that people have asked for millennia. And one of the things that we find out the older we get also, that John's going to help us know too, there's so many ways to cross the road. So, I'm so excited to read this book to you. And it's called Why Did the Chicken Cross the Road? And they asked, the publishers asked 14 different contemporary artists to interpret how they would interpret why the chicken crossed the road. So these are some of them they have no words at all. They're just like you got to observe them for a second. So I'm just going to kind of click onto each one and take a moment for all of us to just kind of take in what's happening and maybe get the visual puns a little bit. Okay, here we go. And the 14 artists, I would like to read their names aloud. John Agee, Ted Arnold, Harry Bliss, David Catro, Marla Frazee, Mary Grandpré, Lynn Mussinger, Jerry Pinkney, Vladimir Radinsky, Chris Roshka, Judy Schnackner, David Shannon, Chris Sheben, and Mo Willems. Why did the chicken cross the road? Duh. This one personally took me a little while. So I wanted to ask Jean, would you give an interpretation? Tell us your interpretation of that. Do you? Does everybody? Is it just me? I don't know. I found it kind of... I mean, is it just that obvious? Duh, because it's raining over here and it's really fun over here. Is it that obvious? Okay. It's that, the age-old questions sometimes are that obvious, aren't they? I'm telling you guys, I did it just to get to the other side, honest. This is a double visual pun. You see it? The chicken is being grilled in two ways. They're grilling him with the questions, and then this guy's getting ready to grill him over here. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because she wasn't free range. She was deranged. Can you read the invitation she's holding in her wings? It says, who? Chicken. What? Dinner. Where? With an arrow pointing across the road. When? Now. And across the road, two foxes are setting up a nice little picnic. And she's so excited. Why did the chicken cross the road? To show the possum that it could be done. Get it? So chicken's like, yeah, watch, boom, 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 ta-da, now it's your turn. And if the possum at that moment decided to cross the road, you see what would happen, right? Boom. He'd get hit by that truck. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because the light was green. Obviously, because the light was green. Why did the chicken cross the road? Everybody's got to be crossing the road in a dinosaur invasion. Everybody crosses the road. Why did the chicken cross the road? Oh, this one's really sweet. Because his sister's marrying Toad. Aww. Look how cute that little couple is over there. This one has no words. It's only a beautiful visual. You see the chicken up here? She's crossing the road to go to like a really great picnic where they're not going to actually eat her, as opposed to where she was crossing where the foxes were. Why did the chicken cross the road? Oh boy, we got to get out of here. Run, run, cross the road, cross the road. Why did the chicken cross the road? Ask the mutated zombie chickens from Mars. Right? Makes sense, makes sense. Here's another beautiful visual. This is kind of a surrealist kind of thing. Why did the chicken cross? You see the chicken coming in? It's like a beautiful surrealist kind of landscape. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because the light said walk. Of course. That's when all the chickens cross the road. There they are, all kinds of different chickens. Why did the chicken cross the road? Chicken crosses the road to go to the diner across the road. Why did the chicken cross the road? You tell me, says the Sphinx. It's a pretty deep, age-old question for sure. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jules. My son told me a new one recently. He didn't even know we were doing this topic, but he said a couple weeks ago, why did the chicken cross the road? Because. He's right at my level of humor. All right, it is time in our service where we take a moment to share the things on our hearts, things that in some cases are lightening our hearts, and others things that are weighing us down. Joys, concerns, needs, milestones, whatever it is. And so we like to invite you forward to drop a stone in the water, signaling our commonality, and also the ripples signifying how our joys and concerns go out to the entire community. If you have something you would like to share, then you can hand me the yellow card. And there's a place there, by the way, to mark whether it's something you want shared from the pulpit or something you would rather just the leadership know about. For those joining us online, this is when you can write in the comments if you have also a joy or concern. Brenda, would you play us some music? And we invite you to come forward. believe we do have some that were shared online. Very good. Thank you all for sharing. And we know there's always other things that are unshared, and we want to drop some stones for those, both joys and concerns, and some more for the joys and concerns we will face in the coming 24 hours and week and beyond. Let's take 60 seconds for some deep breathing, meditation, and or prayer as we reflect on all of these things. Okay. It's time now for our offering. If you are a guest with us, just sit on your wallet, please. This is a time for members to share, and this fellowship is completely supported by the free will gifts of its members. And there are various ways that people give online and through texting, or the old-fashioned way, put it in the basket. And we invite at this time our usher hosts to come forward, and they will pass the baskets.
Why did Jesus, Moses, Buddha, and Muhammad cross the road? I know it sounds so much like that old joke we just couldn't resist. Why did the chicken cross the road? Which really is an old joke dating back at least as far as 1847, when it was published in a popular New York magazine. And you may think that Jules has already covered every possible answer to that question, but I beg to differ. Why did the chicken cross the road? Grandpa might have said, "Sonny boy, back in my day, we didn't ask why the chicken crossed the road. Somebody told us that the chicken crossed the road, and that was good enough for us." Why did the chicken cross the road? Einstein might have answered, "Did the chicken really cross the road? Or did the road move beneath the chicken?" Why did the chicken cross the road? Well, a nun might have answered, "It was a habit." That was bad. Why did the chicken cross the road? Colonel Sanders might have answered, "What? Did one get away?" Okay. Enough of that. Why did Jesus, Moses, Buddha, and Muhammad cross the road? Actually, this is the title of a little book by a pastor by the name of Brian McLaren. Just imagine, he wrote, 4 of history's greatest religious figures, not fighting, not arguing, not condemning each other, not launching crusades or jihads, but simply walking together. Doesn't that already reverse some of our assumptions that different religions are somehow inherently incompatible and must therefore be hostile towards each other? The image of the 4 men crossing a road together also surprises us because it puts all of them in a common situation. Whatever the answer will be, it will be the same for all of them, rendering them companions instead of competitors. And that possibility, I believe, makes claims on all of us who claim to follow them. And then Reverend McLaren poses this simple question. How do you think Jesus would treat Moses and Buddha and Muhammad if they did come to a busy street corner together? Would Jesus push the others aside and demand to cross the road first? Would he trade insults with them? Would he tell them how wrong they all were? Would he tell them to go find another place to cross the road? Would he smite them, as many of his followers are fond of thinking? Oh, how some people would love to see God smite the people they can't stand. According to the Christian nationalist movement now gaining ground in this country, Jesus would probably throw them all under the bus. We just don't realize how many thousands upon thousands of people have been persecuted over the centuries, tortured and killed in witch hunts and crusades and inquisitions and lynchings, all in the name of religion. And much of it in the name of Christianity itself, and much of it too horrific for words. It is an ugly part of history that the church, by and large, is still unable or unwilling to talk about. Considering what is known of Jesus from the Gospels, isn't it much more likely that he would simply practice what he preached about loving others as you love yourself and about treating others as you would want to be treated? And then here's another question. Just suppose all four of them did cross the road together at a busy intersection in downtown Fayetteville. And then they go somewhere to have lunch. Picture it. How would they be dressed? Would Jesus be wearing the typical clothing of a first century Jewish man, a flax robe with a rope belt? Here in modern day America in 2025? And Muhammad, would he be dressed like a 6th century Arab? And Buddha? And Moses? Business suits, neckties, khaki shorts, what? Back when I was still serving in the Presbyterian Church up in Missouri, one of our executive ministers told us about going out to preach and fill in for another pastor who was called out of town. The church he was to preach at had a woman minister and had for several years. As this minister was getting his robe on before the service, a young boy happened to wander into the church office, and the little boy said, "What are you doing?" The minister said, "I'm putting on my robe. I'm getting ready for church. I'm going to be the minister today." The little boy's eyes got real wide, and he said, "You mean they let men do that?" It's not always easy to rethink the images we have in our minds. Images of other countries, other cultures, other religions, and sometimes images even of our own religion. It can be difficult to change our thinking about things like the Bible, or the language we use, or gender roles, or our expectations of others. We tend to think Amish people are a little quirky when we see them driving down the road in their buggies, dressed up like people back in the 18th century. But the fact is, many of us get stuck in some very outdated ideas. Why did Jesus, Moses, Buddha, and Muhammad cross the road? What a creative way to start a conversation about God, or whatever it is we hold sacred. That's where you start, isn't it? A conversation, not a creed, a mindful discussion, if you will. And thank you, Kate and Brooke, for helping us have those conversations. You know, ever since humanity's first primitive notions about a God out there or a God up there somewhere who created all of this, there has been an ever-present temptation to whittle this God down to the size of our own particular bias. A temptation for us to whittle God down to the size of our own race, our own color, our own religion, our own denomination, and for an awfully lot of people, our own gender. I mean, everybody knows that God is a man, right? Some people worship a God who is no larger than their own little cramped view of the world. And I think I should warn you that this sermon is considered a dangerous heresy by some people. For a time after I retired, I was providing occasional pulpit supply for a quaint little church up near Rogers. It's such a picturesque little church, it could be on a Christmas card. And whether it was divine punishment or my own stupid mistake, I gave this same sermon there one Sunday. And I was never invited back. Many people worship a God who is no larger than the borders of their own country. In the age in which Moses lived, every separate tribe of people had its own god. The Egyptians had the sun god. The Moabites had Chemosh, the god of fire. The Canaanites, of course, had Baal, the god of fertility. And when these tribes went to war with each other, they carried images of those gods with them into battle because they believed that this would help them win. Those ancient tribes fought with spears and swords, and we modern-day tribes fight with bombs and missiles. And while we are able to kill each other much more efficiently, we really have not made much progress in bridging our differences. But today, the rise of Christian nationalism has made it clear that one of the greatest dangers in this country may really come from within and not from without. As someone observed, Christian nationalism is just white supremacy and Bible drag. Some people whittle their God down to the size of their own denomination and perhaps even their own little congregation. When the members of the Westboro Baptist Church travel around the country to hold their demonstrations, what seems to shout out even louder than their own noise, what seems to shout out more than anything else is their belief that God hates pretty much everybody. Except the members of the Westboro Baptist Church. As Reverend McLaren commented, nobody is born a religious jerk. It takes religion to make them that way. Some of us believe in a pretty traditional image of God. Some of us do not. Some of us would rather talk about our scientific understanding of the way the universe works. Many of us would rather think in terms of the great web of life that we are all part of. Some of us find our sense of the sacred somewhere else entirely. And some of us find it all a riddle and a mystery. So, it can be difficult to find adequate language for that which holds all the rest together. We keep trying, and that's good. But what a mistake it would be for us to cloak our searching in claims of absolute truth. Unfortunately, sometimes we are still like the little boy who told his Sunday school teacher that he was going to draw a picture of God. And his Sunday school teacher said, well, that may be hard to do. No one has ever seen God. No one knows what he looks like. The little boy said, well, they will when I get through. Brenda played Imagine at the beginning of the service this morning. Perfect, Brenda, perfect choice. Can we even imagine how different history might have been if Jesus, Moses, Buddha, and Muhammad really did have a chance to cross the road together, sharing their best with each other and with the rest of the human family? And what if enough of us could live as if what might have been could still be?
Now, that's the kind of sermon that's liable to get you invited to speak again. I look forward to a day when a chicken can cross the road without her motives being questioned. Okay, that's the last one. All right. Let's, I thought I was next. Sorry, we have a hymn. Let's stand as we're able for this hymn, number 318, We Would Be One.
Okay. Let's go.
Please join me in these words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And all right, I think, you get bonus points for ending us early. And unless these closing words go really long, but please, leave us with some good thoughts here.
Let's see, let me just go over these. Near the end of his life, T.S. Eliot wrote a long and well-known and much-loved poem entitled Little Gidding. It's the name of a little village in England that suffered much damage during the English Civil War. It took a long time for Eliot to complete this poem, and he was struggling with it during the bombing of London in World War II. So part of the poem deals with the constant fighting that has plagued the human family. And some of the better-known lines from that poem are these. We shall not cease from from exploring, and after we have conquered the wind and the waves, the moon and the stars, perhaps the end of all exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place again for the first time. Amen.